Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of music, TV, pop culture, news, sports, everything really depending on the guests who talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats, a returning guest and an old friend back on the show. He is the vocalist of We Were Sharks, who just released their new music video and single, Shameless. Randy Frobel is back with us. Randy, welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's always a pleasure. Always nice to catch up, dude.
Absolutely, always. It's always exciting because a lot of bands kind of put out a new song and people can stream it. It's always a fun time when there's a new song and a new music video. It's like kind of like a 2-for-1 almost.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I feel that.
Yeah, and you know, Shameless is out right now. And talk a little bit about that kind of, it's interesting because it's like, you know, it's a We Were Sharks song. You know what I mean? For people that have kind of like followed it. But you know, the music video kind of came out. What was kind of the mindset for that single specifically with the song and the music video?
So the music video, we were talking about doing it as like a Beetlejuice concept where they all get like possessed at the dinner table. That's literally what it is. And some people have caught up on that and it's like caught that and it's really, really cool.
I didn't, so I apologize.
A lot of people asked if it was like TikTok dances, but I am way too old to know any TikTok dances. Oh, yeah. So it's definitely not TikTok dancing. It's so we just try to do the Beetlejuice scene.
I don't think people realize, I was talking to Colin about this. I mean, like we were talking before we started, you know, the Wonder Year Show State Champs. I mean, We Were Sharks have been a band, like lineup changes, but like they've been a band for a long time.
And July 11th, we were a band for 10 years. Yeah,
is it kind of interesting, but at the same time a bit kind of unfortunate though that like the band's been around for 10 years, you know, you sign to Revival, you put out this stuff and people are like, wow, like I've never heard of this band, they must be new, but it's like, man, you're like, I've been doing it for 10 years, right? Like but that's gonna happen regardless, right?
100%. And it's funny, you'll see like a lot of comments about like, why is their singer 67 years old? Why is he so old? And then you'll get like people that have known us for a long time and they're like, yeah, he's been doing this for 10 years. Like when We Were Sharks started, I was 25. Or 26. I was 26 when We Were Sharks. So I mean, it's been a long road, man.
But the support, like even though it's gone in waves, the support for the band has like not gone away, which is pretty cool.
It's always been crazy. Like we talked about this. I'm not a numbers person. I never look at numbers, but I get to meet all these people at shows, and a lot of these people are coming back, and I've known for a long time now, and that's where I see it, and it's super cool to see that kind of support.
Again, I know you're not a numbers guy, but I will tell you, for someone who is a numbers guy, the fact that 70,000 people on a monthly basis listen to We Were Sharks on Spotify is phenomenal. I'm just saying.
That's crazy to me. That's so crazy.
That's a lot of people.
You know? Yeah, that's way more people that should not be listening to our band. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. I didn't think there was that many pop punk fans out there.
Yeah, I know. It's just like it's crazy. We talked about it a little bit before, you know, because I was like, you know, every time there's a new record coming out, bands kind of grow naturally and try new things. But there's always going to be, I think because of your voice, it's always going to be a We Were Sharks record. But I understand there's some rumblings that maybe there's going to be some experiments, some more popular sounds. Like, is that going to be kind of evident in this record?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It was something before we even like got writing this album. It was something that we talked about. We all have we all listen to pop punk, but we all have different music tastes as well. Like I'm a big country guy. I'm a big R&B guy. So, you know, for me, getting that popular sound was a bigger goal for myself. It was just, I look at it, you can only play skate punk beats and play fast for so long before you want to just expand as a band. And then that's kind of what we're doing. And, you know, we got to work with guys like Mark Rousseau and, you know, and that stuff we kind of like learned what he did for things, and it was just kind of
Mark
going into
Silverstein?
this. Yes.
Yeah.
So going into
I
this
knew that name sounded familiar.
Yeah, the guy is amazing, incredible person, incredible songwriter as well. So just learning from Lost Touch with him and Sam, and getting to have our same team on this album, there was nothing left off the table, right? Like if it sounded good, we went for it. So when Paul came in, we talked to him, you know, we don't want to write a Lost Touch. we want to write this next album. And that was, and to me, it really played out like that. Yeah, it's still We Were Sharks, but I'm sure every band says that they grow, but we are trying to grow as much as we can, right?
Absolutely. I think there's one we're talking about the now, but the then of We Were Sharks. One song that I don't think is ever going to go anywhere is Bridge Burner. That song, I feel like, dude, it's here to stay, man. It's crazy.
It's crazy because when we recorded that album, that song was close to not even making the album. Like, straight up, we're just like, meh.
Dude, I told you this, okay? I interviewed, Tyler Posey, who's in some pop punk bands, who's in Teen Wolf MTV, and before we started, I was like, yeah, like, I used to, like, work with some really cool bands from Ottawa. We Were Sharks, pop punk. It's like, oh, of course, hell yeah, We Were Sharks. And he's like, keep burning down bridge, and like started singing it. It's pretty cool, right?
That's incredible. You like messaged me when that happened, and I'm like, that's crazy. That's craziness to me.
And then he literally was like, I want to do a podcast with them. And I was like, man, like they're going to like freak out
100%.
when they hear that.
100%. More than happy to.
Do you still talk to the guys in Seaway?
I try to when we like end up at shows, which we haven't really done that in the last 7-8 months now.
Dude, they put out a new record recently, and there's one song on that record called Mrs. David that like I just can't stop listening to that song, man. It's weird. Like it's kind of like always I love that song. It just has such a good like kind of beat and feel to it, man.
Big Big Vibe was that for me.
Yeah.
When they put out that song, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I've been listening to that song almost every single day.
No, that's
it's funny,
great song. But did you hear Mrs. David? You heard that song?
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah, that's amazing too. Oh yeah. That whole album is incredible. That band is so friggin' good.
But I feel like bands like Seaway and We Were Sharks, I find, are very interesting and very similar in terms of the growth. Like I've followed you guys for many years. Let's be honest. When you both kind of started out as a band, you were easy core like pop punk bands. That's what it was. The keyboard, like that was what it was, right? Mm-hmm. You had songs like Welcome to the Show and everything. They had Sabrina the Teenage Witch or something. It was just pop punk, right? Yeah. Then it kind of like they realized that both bands had amazing kind of like musicianship with like people built the ability to kind of experiment with guitar riffs and like the vocals, and you kind of became more like still pop punk, but like rock and more vibes. I find that. Do you know what I mean a little bit? When we were Sharks and Seaway?
Yeah, no, 100%. Seaway is a great example of it. They get more 90s and more alternative rock, and it makes me so happy. Like, I love the pop punk Seaway, but I also love this Seaway. It's still pop punk. I love
that record, man. It's
but
good.
It is so good. Like, man, I wish that was on the radio instead of some of the stuff we have on the radio. I listened
to Big Vibe and I listened to Mrs. David. Like that could definitely be on the radio.
100%. 100%. That band's incredible. That album's incredible. Just so good.
There's always, talking to Colin about this, there's always kind of songs that you kind of promote as singles, but I honestly think because of the lyrics, because of the feel of it, Sober from Lost Touch is one of my favorite We Were Sharks songs. Why do you think that song has kind of specifically, like, kind of, like, it's getting a lot of love on its own? Like, you guys obviously push certain songs, but that song is getting a lot of love.
I had no idea it was. That's one of my favorites.
Well, it is. I'm telling you, it is.
Well, that's amazing. That's awesome. I'm glad. That was for us. We kind of wrote that as a pop song. I remember when Paul heard it as well. He was like, oh, "Okay, this is cool. Let's like take this more as maybe more of a pop rock song than necessarily a pop punk song." Yep. But I'm glad people are taking that song. I really like that song myself.
Absolutely. Do people also realize? Do you think that like how much, like, I don't think people realize how much kind of work goes into a We Were Sharks song, let alone a record.
A lot.
Like just one song.
My friends do because they know I'm a wreck anytime I'm in the studio or like working on something. My friends realize it. I mean, it all comes from a loving place, but yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into that.
It's insane. When I started this show, I wanted to kind of interview a lot of different people. I wanted to interview people from pop culture. I wanted to interview musicians. I wanted to interview athletes. I'm noticing there's always going to be the crossover where athletes will listen to bands. Bands will watch sports. bands will watch TV shows. People in TV shows will watch sports and listen to music. There's always been that crossover. Have you kind of noticed that as well? You know, when the band kind of like, you know, will go on Warped Tour, you know, there'd be a lot of different cultures out there. You know, there'd be like, have you noticed that crossover?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially like when I was younger and playing more sports. I still play sports now, but like playing at a high level, I would blast music to get me out of the whole thinking about the game situation, which honestly made me fall in love with music. And that's kind of why I'm doing what I do now, is because growing up and listening to music while I was playing sports, right? Like that was a big reason I started just even getting into it.
Absolutely. You performed on the first ever Popternative Fest on Instagram Live.
Yes, that was so much fun.
That was amazing. Has the band done any live streams or anything like that?
No, we do have some stuff that we've been talking about doing, but we did a We Were Sharks live stream where it was just me kind of butchering the songs and making them sound country.
On Instagram?
We did one of those.
On Instagram, or did you do it on another platform?
I was on Instagram and Facebook, yeah.
That was kind of interesting to see how many bands were kind of using that during the COVID, eh?
It was awesome. Honestly, it gave everybody something to watch and listen to, because as a musician, not being able to play has probably been one of the hardest things. I've never realized how much of a stress reliever it is just to play music nonstop until this happened. And now everything's slowly catching up. And I'm like, I just want to play.
It's crazy. Do you ever kind of wake up in the morning? Because I know you write a lot of the songs too, and like you're in the studio. Do you ever wake up in the morning and kind of have like a beat in your head? Or you're like, this could be a good song. How does that happen all the time with Randy?
Not all the time. I wish it happened more than it does, but it does happen. Especially, like I said, I write a lot of country songs as well, and I feel with that stuff, I kind of wake up. Like there's been times where I've waken up with a song in my head, and I just got to write it and just get it out, and that's what I do for the rest of the day.
It's kind of funny because I remember, you know, talking to guys in like really heavy metalcore bands like August Burns Red, and they were literally like, they were saying like, we listen to a lot of like jazz and like folk music, and then we end up writing heavy stuff, and it's kind of like you're listening to a lot of country music, and you play in a pop punk band. That is interesting as well.
I mean, there's so many, and especially in country music now, it's hard to call it really country music because it's kind of like pop music with banjos, but there's so many like great hooks and so many like great melodies and just the play on words in certain country songs. I'm a big fan of, which I'm doing my best to put that in Sharks, which sometimes the guys have to go like, yeah, that's too country, dude. You can't do that. So there is some times where I get a little too country for Sharks, which is hilarious to me, but it's not really hilarious to them. They're like, can you just tone it down a bit?
That's pretty funny because I remember when we did the Popternative Fest, and you know, for an Instagram Live like music festival, we had some pretty good bands on that. We had we had Courage My Love, Stuck on Planet Earth. It was pretty cool. You were like going over the set list and you were like, I want to put some country in there, but then at the end you were just like, nah, we're just gonna do We Were Sharks.
Yeah, I'm a big country fan, and that's, like I said, with the spare time during COVID, with not being able to play We Were Sharks shows, and the album was already done before this all started, I've just taken the time to start doing my solo stuff and just really working on country music that I absolutely love. And it's something that I've been doing for a long time, and I've just never put it out. Like I do have songs fully recorded, ready to go. I've just never put them out. I don't know, the guys are always kind of pushing me to do it, and everybody that I'm really good friends with really pushed me to do it. And honestly, it's been great. I guess I'm afraid to do something on my own. It's like a weird thing. I don't know where to start. You know, people are like, just put it out and start like that. And
bands like, you know, Silverstein, August Burns Red, and most recently I interviewed Jared from Bowling for Soup, which was crazy.
Yeah,
like that was crazy. It's weird when you like, that's crazy because I'm interviewing him and I'm like, I listened to your band like every freaking day in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I still listen to Bowling for Soup every day. So
they're doing like a greatest hits CD, but they're gonna be doing kind of some remastering of some old stuff too. Has there been kind of ever a conversation of taking some of the highway stuff and maybe like kind of reducing it, fixing it up a little bit?
I mean, there was we kind of fixed up, I think it was Go West for the Not a Chance Deluxe release. Yeah, there has been some little
there's
talk,
some good songs, man, that keep your head up, kid.
Thank you.
Man, there's some good ones.
Funny, that's one of the first ones I remember when Sharks started that we wrote. It was Blackout Anthem,
Blackout Anthem was
which was
good.
one of the first ones we wrote, and Glory Days was one of the first ones.
I only
Actually,
like the
Glory Days
first.
might have
I
been
only
the
like the
first one we wrote.
first album was good too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was funny. That was like a Fall Out Boy reference because, you know,
Which is a total lie. I talk to Terry about that all the time. Like they have more than one good record. So
yeah, no, they do. But
From Under the Cork Tree is a great record.
it is. But you know, Take This to Your Grave. To me, if you ask me my favorite pop punk album of all time, it's, you know, Take This to Your Grave by Fall Out Boy and self-titled New Found Glory album.
Take This to Your Grave by Fall Out Boy, actually, from top to bottom, is just like an
It's
amazing record.
It's perfect. It's
Man,
perfect.
I was listening. Okay, there was like 2 songs that weren't even singles. It's kind of what I was talking about with Colin too, where there's some We Were Sharks songs that weren't like pushed as much as others,
Yeah.
right? Because Lost Touch had the songs, right, like Hotel Beds and Never Look Better, right? But
Yeah.
then there's songs like Sober that get like a lot of love. But man, there was, I'm gonna pull it up for Take This to Your Grave. There was the Patron Saints of Liars and Fakes.
Yeah.
And Chicago is So 2 years ago. Those 2 songs are amazing.
Chicago So 2 years ago is probably one of my favorite songs on that album. Yeah.
That whole, man, I'm going to listen to that record afterwards.
Right? I'm telling you. Yeah.
So good.
It's not that Under the Cork Tree isn't good. It's just Take This to Your Grave might be the best album ever written by humans. So.
Stittsville show, Rydell, their first show. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, kind of. I think maybe.
So they're playing Where Is Your Boy from Fall Out Boy. And I see you at the merch table, and I literally just like pull you.
I do remember this. I do.
And you were like, what? You didn't even know what was going on. You're like, oh shit. And then like I just pulled you and you went on stage with them.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was good
I remember
times.
that was cool. Man, it's just so many good times. What have you what has still been your favorite like couple of We Were Sharks moments? Has it been the people you've gone to meet on tour, like stuff like that, or
Yeah, I would say a lot of it has to do with the people I've gotten to meet. Like, we've lucked out. We Were Shark fans or people that come to our shows are the best people in the entire world. I mean, I can sit here and tell you all the time, but if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be my age with some gray in my beard, getting to do this still. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, so we do have some of the best people, and I would say my favorite moments are that, and just like. I remember the first time we did like a Warped Tour set and we did Rockfest. I remember just going, okay, this is like craziness to me. Like this is, it's something that you always want to do, but I mean, I'm a kid from a small country town, you know, in Western Quebec. I didn't dream of doing any of this. I wanted to, and I've lucked out. And sometimes you have to sit back and think about it.
yeah.
And I normally don't. I'm not the kind of type to like sit back and think. I kind of just go.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I do, it's got to be the people that I've met and the people that I get to call friends now because of this.
It's funny because, you know, I've always been a supporter of We Were Sharks. It would be a fun drinking game, too, to go back to past YouTube video interviews that I've done where I mentioned We Were Sharks, because it happens quite a bit. You know what I mean?
Man.
I brought it up with Bowling for Soup.
Yes.
I remember, and I said we were talking about band names because he was talking about Bowling for Soup, how they came up with the band name. And I said, Sharks were Sharks, and now We Were Sharks. And he was like, oh, dude, that's a sick band name.
I think Marco actually came up with that. I think Marco was like, yo, well, We Were Sharks, if I remember correctly. That was years ago.
Because there was Sharks UK, right?
Yes.
Yes.
There was Sharks UK. Yeah. And they were signed to Rise, I think, at the time.
But you weren't Sharks. You guys technically were Sharks.
Yeah,
we exclamation mark, right?
We were the Loud Sharks. That's what we were.
Dude, it was kind of it's kind of crazy though to see the growth of the band, and the band has, you know, changed members over years and stuff, but like it's crazy to see also like you and Will kind of just sticking it out. You know what I mean? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever talked to Will about that? Like, man, like before a show, like, man, we're OG right now.
Will and I joked about it actually while we were shooting the music video before we did Shameless. Like, it was him and I sleeping in the van. Everybody was like sleeping somewhere else, and Will and I were sleeping in the van. And he kind of looked over and he's like, dude, we've been doing this for 10 years together. And just kind of give each other props and lay down. That's the most Will and I really ever talked about it. It's just kind of something we do. It's kind of who we are now, I want to say. Like,
yeah.
if I didn't play in Sharks, I don't know what I would be doing.
But you could tell, like, when I talk to you, like, you love music, like, you love doing the We Were, like, you love being in We Were Sharks.
I do. I absolutely do. Like I said, it's past and present. I get to play with some of the greatest people. So, I mean, I've lucked out hardcore to be able to continue doing this, and I like being a part of it.
No, absolutely. Randy, it's always a pleasure to catch up
Thank
with you, man.
Thank you so much, man. Same to you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Hey, anytime. You know I'm down. Always.
Absolutely. So the band has a new single out right now, Shameless.
Yeah.
They can listen to it wherever they listen to music, and they can check out the music video on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Boost that music video up because, I mean, Spotify doesn't pay the bills. So
yeah, but you're not even are you gonna look at the numbers though? If we boost it up.
I don't look at the numbers. I just get the money.
Awesome, man. Seriously, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, it's always a pleasure catching up with you, man.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Randy Frobel of We Were Sharks and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.